Nick Manolis, and welcome to the third edition of the Frontline Management Microburst Series brought to you by the NHTI Business Training Center. Thanks for being here today. Today what we want to do is we want to talk about three words that I think can enhance your leadership capacity and really give you a bit of a leadership edge. They're three words that don't often come to mind when we think about leadership, but we really ought to. The three words are aspirations, expectations, and voice. So let's give you a backdrop of where we'd like to go over the next few minutes and really give you a foundation on which to build these thoughts on. Look, here's just sort of a universal thought, and the thought is this, that our leadership can be enhanced if there is a strong connection and collaboration between the leader and those folks that she is leading. I mean, just think about it. Things like trust, things like culture, communication, productivity, creativity, innovation, all can really flourish if there is that connection and collaboration between the leader and the led. So with that as a backdrop, you might be asking yourself, okay, so how do aspirations and expectations and voice come into that? Well, first off, let's start off with some definitions. Aspirations, what are aspirations? Those are the goals and the objectives that we truly desire. I mean, think about this. I would think that most of us have a personal aspiration. Some of us have professional aspirations. But do we have group aspirations? Start to think about that, leaders. If I was to say to you, have you framed with your staff any group aspirations, what would you tell me? So let's backtrack to the definition. Aspirations are goals and objectives that we truly desire. And expectations are things we look forward to. Now, not all expectations are positive, but generally expectations give us a positive connotation. Example, let's say that you had a favorite restaurant. You know, it's your go-to place. You walk in there expecting to have a good meal, to be served well, and to be comfortable. Those are your expectations. Sometimes expectations don't have a positive connotation, but we still look forward to them. Example, next week I have to have some oral surgery done. And guess what? I'm not looking forward to it. My expectation is it'll be miserable. That's my expectation. By the way, it is my expectation that a day after having this done, it'll be over, out of the way. So expectations are things we look forward to. Aspirations are goals and objectives that we truly desire. So with that as sort of our working definitions, let me ask you this question. What would happen if you had your work group around the table? Now, the work group would be, in my mind, the people that you're responsible for leading. And what would happen if you asked them this question? Folks, what do we want this work group to be or become in 12 months that it is not today? What do we want this work group to be or become that it is not today? That's the aspirational question. By the way, it'd be really interesting to see what sort of response you get. Some of you will get crickets. Why? Because your employees say, she's never asked that before. Or what does he really care? What is he up to? Some of you would get willing participation because you've built up that fabric of leadership, which is based on comfort and trust that the employee can contribute. And some of you would get some skepticism. But it's that sort of aspirational question that's our jumping off point. What do we want our work group to be or become 12 months from today that it is not now? The follow-up question to that is, okay, now that we've framed our aspirations, what do we expect from each other to get there? I would ask that second question, by the way, the expectation question at three levels. Number one, what do we expect from each other? Number two, what do you expect from me as your leader to help get you there? And thirdly, let me tell you what I expect of you. It's really that mutual expectation. So we have this aspirational question, where do we want to be? And what do we want to become that we are not today? That sets up our aspirations. And what are our expectations to get there? I used to use this model in many places I was at, and I would bring the group together, ask those two questions, and then we would follow up on our progress quarterly, sometimes monthly, but we never let it slip off our radar screen. Aspirations, expectations. Now let's talk about voice, because you can't make either of these two questions, you can't answer either of these two questions unless you give the employee voice. So let me just give you some quick thoughts on voice. Number one, all employees want to be heard. Last time in our second edition, we talked about employees feeling valued in the workplace. One of the things that we know is if we give employees voice and let employees use their voice in the workplace, they will feel valued. So you can't use this aspirational and expectation model to enhance your leadership unless you're willing to give employees voice. Voice is their contribution. Voice is being able to say things in a meeting that they know will not result in retaliation. Voice is the comfort in offering thoughts that may be a little bit wacky, right? But yet the voice aspect is this. I can say stuff to my work group and to my leader and feel comfortable about doing it. One last quick story about voice. I read a book many, many years ago by a guy named Jack Welch. Some of you know Welch, but at the time I read it, he was a CEO of General Electric. He would travel the world to all the GE plants. He'd hold what's called town meetings. And what he would do is he would ask employees, without their managers being in the room, for the employees' view on how things were going and all this sort of feedback kind of stuff. He was in one plant when one employee had a suggestion, and it was a production suggestion. Welch said, "That's brilliant. Have you brought that up to your boss?" He said, "No." Welch said, "Why?" He said, "I'm afraid to bring things up to my boss. I'm just afraid. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel valued." And Welch said, "You should do it." And the employee said, "Mr. Welch, for 25 years, GE has paid me for my hands. They could have had my mind for free." And for whatever reason, that quote stuck with me. So let's sum it up. To give yourself a bit of a leadership edge, engage employees on what their mutual aspirations are, what the expectations are of each other and of you to get there, and give employees a valid, comfortable voice to chime in on these questions. It can work. With that, thanks for joining us, and be well.
I always learn something new when I listen to Nick Manolas, and that is why he is one of our most popular trainers and teachers here at the NHTI Business and Training Center. You can join Nick on June 25th for Leadership Perspective. That's a free webinar we'll be hosting. Just go to nhti.coursestorm.com to register. Make sure you register so that you can receive the link to access that short webinar with Nick on June 25th. Also, if you go to nhti.coursestorm.com, you're going to find a variety of courses, professional development, training, some for charge and some free. I hope you'll check us out. And if you have any suggestions, you can contact me directly at amalika@ccsnh.edu. Thanks a lot. And thanks for watching, Nick. Have a great day. Bye-bye.